I know it wasn't an accident. It's all right.
You don't have to say anything. I already know.
I want you to think about the one person you've ever been completely honest with. Not your mom, not your best friend. The one person who knew the parts of you that you were ashamed of. The parts you'd never say out loud to anyone else. For me, that person was my therapist, and I trusted him with every single one of those parts. His name was Dr. Marcus Webb. I'd been seeing him for almost 8 months. I came to him in the worst stretch of my life. My marriage was falling apart. I'd stopped recognizing myself in the mirror. And I was so exhausted from holding everything together that I would sit in my car in the Target parking lot and just not be able to go inside. I just sat there for like 15 minutes, just staring at the cart return. That's where I was when I found Marcus. My insurance covered him. He had a 5-star Google rating. He had a framed degree from Georgetown on the wall. And in our very first session, he looked at me and said, "You've been taking care of everyone else for so long that you've forgotten you're allowed to need things too." I cried for the entire 50 minutes. I thought finally, someone sees me. I want to tell you something right now so you understand where this goes. That line, "You've been taking care of everyone else," he uses it on all of them. I know this now because I've talked to 6 other women who heard those exact words in that exact same office. But I'm getting ahead of myself. By month 4, something had shifted and I didn't fully understand it yet. I started getting dressed up for our sessions. Not like crazy dressed up, but I would think about what I was wearing. I would tell my husband I had an appointment and feel this little flutter of, I don't even know, anticipation. I told myself it was because therapy was helping, that I was just excited to feel heard. Marcus was good at making you feel like the most important person in the room. He'd remember every tiny thing I'd said weeks earlier. He'd lean forward when I talked. He had this way of lowering his voice when we got to the hard stuff, like what we were discussing was precious. Like I was precious. At month 5, he said something that I replay a lot now. He said, "You know, in another context, I think we could be really close friends." I drove home smiling. I didn't tell my husband about that. I know. And here's the thing about being in that headspace. You don't see it from the inside. You think you're healing. You think the warmth you feel is just what it feels like to finally be seen. Nobody ever tells you that warmth can be a weapon. By month 6, I had emotionally checked out of my marriage. Not because my husband had done anything terrible, but because Marcus had been carefully, methodically teaching me that my husband was the problem. Every bad day got traced back to my marriage. Every moment of exhaustion got reframed as evidence that I was with the wrong person. Every fight we had, and we were having more of them because I was pulling away, Marcus would process with me in a way that always ended with me feeling like I deserved better. He was rewriting how I saw my life, and I let him. The affair started at month 7. I'm not going to describe it in detail. What I will tell you is that when it happened, I had been so thoroughly convinced that my marriage was dead, that what I was feeling for Marcus was real, and that my husband was holding me back from the person I was supposed to become, that I didn't even feel guilty. That's how good he was. I thought I was evolving. I thought I was choosing myself. I was being hunted. The thing that cracked everything open wasn't Marcus. It wasn't my husband either. There was a woman named Dana. Dana was a friend of a friend. We'd met twice at group things, birthday dinners, that kind of thing. She slid into my DMs on a Wednesday night in November. The message said, "Hey, I know this is random, but do you see a therapist named Marcus Webb?" I stared at my phone for a full minute. I told her yes. She said, "Can we talk?" Not over text. We met at a coffee shop 2 days later. Dana was shaking when she walked in. She ordered nothing. She sat across from me and said, "How long has it been going on?" I didn't ask her how she knew. I think I already understood. She told me everything. She'd been his patient 2 years before me. Same arc, same words. The "you've been taking care of everyone else" line. The leaning forward. The lowered voice. The slow reframing of her marriage. She'd had an affair with him. Her marriage had ended because of it. And then one day he just dropped her as a patient. Said she'd made tremendous progress and didn't need him anymore. She found out later there was someone else, a new patient. I left that coffee shop and sat in my car, and I didn't move for a long time because I knew I was not the new patient Dana had been replaced by. I was one step further down the line. And somewhere out there, there was already another woman sitting in that office with the Georgetown degree on the wall, crying for 50 minutes while he told her she deserved better. Here's what you need to understand about what Marcus was doing. He wasn't just having affairs. He had a whole system. He ran what he called a men's personal growth weekend retreat, these secretive group sessions in the woods where he was the leader. His patients came to the ceremony at the end to give testimonials. Meanwhile, he was recruiting women from his therapy practice to start a female version of the program. These women thought they were being empowered, they were being inducted. I started making calls. It took me 3 weeks to find 4 other women. 3 weeks of careful, quiet conversations. I didn't tell any of them I was still seeing him. I was still going to our sessions, sitting in that chair, nodding, letting him think everything was fine while I was building a file. I contacted the state licensing board. I submitted a formal complaint with documentation, my own records, Dana's testimony, statements from 2 other women who agreed to go on record. I attached the dates of every session. I attached the texts, because yes, there were texts. Marcus had my personal number. The licensing board opened an investigation in January. By March, I had stopped seeing him. I told him in our last session that I was ready to move forward on my own. He smiled like he'd won something. He had no idea. The investigation took 5 months. It was not fast. It was not clean. There were days I didn't know if it was going to amount to anything. There were days I felt so stupid for falling for it, for letting it get that far, for sitting in that chair and thinking I was special. But Dana kept texting me. So did the other women. We kept each other going. In August, Dr. Marcus Webb's license was revoked. His practice is closed. His retreat program has been shut down. His name is on the board's public disciplinary registry, which means that if you Google him, that's what you find now. Not his 5-star reviews, not his Georgetown degree. Just a formal finding of ethical violations and the date his license was pulled. My marriage didn't survive. That's the part that's still hard to say out loud. My husband and I tried. We did couples therapy with someone else, obviously, and we were both willing and we both tried hard. But there was too much damage. Not all of it was Marcus's fault. Some of it was mine. I'm not letting myself off the hook for the choices I made, even if I made them while someone was deliberately warping my perception of reality. I am accountable for my own actions, and Marcus Webb is accountable for his. What I want you to take from this, and I mean this specifically for anyone who's in therapy right now, which statistically a lot of you are, is that what he did has a name. It's called therapist-client sexual misconduct. It is one of the most serious ethical violations in mental health care. It is a violation of the professional code in all 50 states, and it is vastly underreported because the women it happens to spend months being convinced that what they feel is real, that they're special, that it was mutual. It's not mutual, it can't be. That is literally what the law says. A therapist holds power over a client by design. That power cannot produce genuine consent. Full stop. If anything I've described sounds familiar, the blurring of professional lines, the special attention, the way your therapist makes you feel seen in a way that starts to feel like something else, please go to your state psychology licensing board website. You can file a complaint. You don't have to have proof. You don't have to be certain. You just have to report what happened and let them investigate. Dana did it for me in a way. She showed up to that coffee shop shaking, not knowing if I'd believe her or hang up or defend him. She did it anyway. I want to be that person for someone else. That's all I've got. I'm still rebuilding. Some days it's hard and some days I feel like myself again, and honestly, that's enough. This is Broken Vows. If this episode hit close to home, please subscribe. Leave a comment if you've been there. I read every single one. I'll see you next time.